Hello, everybody. Oh, bad timing. I sneezed right when out of nowhere I needed to sneeze right when I hit the button to go live. Uh, Hello, everybody. Um, Sorry, just a few minutes past the hour to start the stream. Wasn't feeling the best this morning, but feeling better now. It's been another busy week. Every week is busy. It's never not busy. But a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff to cover in Ukraine, also in neighboring countries such as Republic of Georgia. There's a lot going on there. Um, who all is here? Let's see. I see Anna. I see UTV and Ham. I see Ozzy Bugga, Robert Jonasar. It wasn't me. Amonsky Amarsky. Did I miss anybody? All right. Welcome, everybody. Please feel free to share the stream on social media, Facebook, Blue Sky, yeah, Facebook, Blue Sky. If you're still on it, I guess Twitter, Discord, pretty much anything you use where you would share streams. I didn't have time to share to a couple places this morning because I was feeling sick, and then I was catching up on some important messages from a friend of mine who is in the protests over in Republic of Georgia. Well, no, who has taken part in the protests over there, but also who has gone, who's just telling me about, in general, all of the crazy stuff happening on the ground, even for people who aren't involved at all in the protests. So we'll get to all of that. All right. Am I on Blue Sky? Keith Kane asks. Not yet. I do want to. I should create a Blue Sky. I've been meaning to. I'm drowning in so much work. I'm trying very hard not to stretch myself too thin. And that's why I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it probably every stream now. If you want to be a co host and assist with either, reporting on things like I do alongside me, or when I'm not available, or you want to help with making stuff behind the scenes, or with planning stuff out for these streams, reach out to me at Tridents Against Tyrants at gmail.com because yeah, I'm still doing quite a few things related to assisting with the whole situation in Ukraine against the Russians, against this horrible war. But yeah, I can't do it alone, guys. So and I've got stuff in my own country. I've got stuff with planning out craziness, how to respond to the craziness that we're already seeing unfold in multiple countries. The war in Ukraine, the situation in Republic of Georgia, something might happen in Moldova because, Russians weren't happy about the referendum results there. The coup attempt, the martial law situation in South Korea, whether or not there will be war with North Korea, the situation in Syria, the situation in Israel Palestine, whether or not it'll reignite at some point, the situation in Lebanon with Hezbollah, stability in Iran, and what would happen if that regime collapses. Like, there's so much stuff going on, and I know people, not in all, but in a lot. Yeah, I know people in a lot of those countries. The majority of those countries I just listed in the United States and Canada. What's going to happen when Trump, is officially in office? The next I'd say that not even four, the next 8 years are going to be a lot of things going on. A lot. Excuse me. So again, we all need to stand unified. And, it doesn't have to be here on Tridents Against Tyrants, but I'm going to encourage everyone who's listening if you're not already involved in something that you consider important related to preserving your democracy. It could be taking part in protests, it could be taking part in a political party, a nonpartisan group of some sort that is focused on values that you care about. It could be, similar to what we're doing here, assisting Ukrainian soldiers and civilians with fundraising. But yeah, everyone listening, that's my PSA for today. If you aren't already, if you're mostly a consumer of information and you feel like you want to take action, get in touch with me and we'll find something you can do, whether it's with Tridents Against Tyrants or another group. Anyway, all right, let's go ahead and move forward. Also, I hope my audio is good. Is my audio good? Because I have a proper headset this week. Do I have a plus plus in chat? Ozzy Bugga says, I'm surprised how the Georgian people have been able to keep it up. Yeah, no. Exactly. It's important. Georgian protesters, I don't know how many of you have been following Ukrainian politics and Ukrainian social issues since before the full-scale invasion. I had been following and slightly involved going back before the full-scale invasion, but not all in as involved as I am now. Going back to even before 2014. Anyone who remembers 2013 and all of the stuff that happened with Yanukovych, all of the the street enforcers, the corruption with the Russian-owned oligarchy, the split within Ukrainian society and politics, you know, the months of protests and, fist fights in the streets and the political crisis that, eventually was resolved with the pro-Russian oligarchs being forced out of the country. And then, of course, the Russians decided, okay, well, now we're going to invade and, go occupy Crimea. I'm so sorry for my cough. Anyone who remembers that, Georgians are going to have to do the same thing. If these protests don't last in the same scale and the same amount of outrage, probably for at least 1 to 3 months, they're going to need to do that if they want to see. They're going to need to have smart people in their protests if they want to overturn the government and end up in a situation like Ukraine where they take back their democracy, take back their right to choose, and prevent a one-party state. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the first. Actually, before we get started, I'm going to go take some medicine. I will be right back. So I'm not coughing every other second when I'm trying to do this news. I'll be right back. Okay, and I'm back. Sorry for that. Feeling better? Let's go ahead and get this set up so we can jump into the first news. Maggie, welcome. Good to see you. Blonde Bombsheller, Mitch Ashdown. Again, I do see the pluses, so I guess my audio is good. Perfect. All right. Here we go. So the first news is going to be from the Kyiv Independent. And as a reminder, I need to post the update onto Discord. But as a reminder, we're still continuing our fundraiser. We're at 10,030.92. Yeah. Sorry, this text is really small. 10,030.92 hryvnia. We still have 1,683,961 left to meet our final goal. As a reminder, our final goal was a pretty big one. Like, much bigger than a small channel probably should have taken on, but we've already started it, and we're going to continue onward because drones are very important to all soldiers. I'll get y'all some more updates from recipients here pretty soon. Posted. All right. Here we go. No, well, almost. Hold on. Should have had that set up before the stream. And there we go. All right. First news from the Kyiv Independent. Oh, Aussie Bug has sent an email. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. There we go. So now news is posted in the chat. Let's jump into it. First, new. Oh, also volume settings. There we go. Ukraine war latest. Zelensky unveils new Ukrainian. Well, there's a typo here, but new Ukrainian missile drone Peklo. Zelensky unveils new Ukrainian missile drone, named the Peklo. Crimean bridge closed after reported Ukrainian drone strikes on Kursk. Ukrainian partisans sabotage railway line linking Moscow to Kursk Oblast, group claims. Estonian company to test AI-guided anti-drone missiles in Ukraine, CEO says. That's really cool. Anti-drone missiles. I wonder how cost-effective those are. Because that's the hard part. It's the economics of fighting off mass-produced cheap drones. That's really important. An effective way to do it that doesn't cost like 10 grand or 100 grand a pop per missile. Putin replaces Kursk Oblast governor due to management chaos after Ukraine incursion, media reports. President Volodymyr Zelensky on December 6th announced that the first batch of a new missile drone hybrid called the Peklo, which I guess is Ukrainian for hell, that's cool, had been delivered to Ukraine's armed forces. Oh no. Delivered to, wait. Now I'm just too curious. Hold on. Is Peklo Ukrainian or is this coming from another country? Okay, no, it is Ukrainian and it's domestically produced. Okay. There we go. So Peklo, being Ukrainian for hell, delivered to Ukraine's armed forces. In a post on social media, Zelensky did not reveal the number of the supplied weapons, but said the aim now was to scale up production and deployment, adding they already have proven combat effectiveness. Long range domestic weapons are seen as critical to Ukraine's defense strategy, providing the country's military with an alternative to Western arms whose use is often under restrictions. This is super important, guys. As much as we want to make sure that allies are providing as much as possible, and we as individuals want to provide as much as possible to Ukrainian soldiers, the Ukrainian military, Ukrainian democracy, to preserve it, to fight for their freedom. Fact of the matter is that being able to domestically produce things that you need is so very invaluable. Some things aren't cost effective. Some things, if you try to produce them domestically, can bankrupt you, can put too much strain on your economy, and you need to buy those things on the international market from allies or anyone who's willing to sell to you. But, I mean, missiles and other long range weapons to be used against Russia within the territory known as the Russian Federation, the territory of the fake Federation, it's important because there's too many people who are too scared who want to excuse me. It's not that they're playing politics, it's that they are concerned that they'll end up pulling their own country into a war with Russia, and then, you know, that would cost the lives of their own countrymen from various different countries. That's a big part of why you see various countries telling Ukraine, no, you have restrictions, which of course we know is ridiculous because Russia blows hot air a lot of the time, but it's a natural concern to have. You know, it's a human concern to have. So I'm all for it. Ukraine needs air defense systems to protect their factories and their domestic locations producing weapons and other equipment, logistical equipment for their armed forces. But yeah, that's really good news. While some details of Peklo's capabilities remain undisclosed for security reasons, Zelensky's highlighted the weapon as a, quote, fundamentally new type. The Peklo has a range of 700 kilometers, or 430 miles for Americans and like the two other countries in the world that use miles, technically three, and a speed of 700 kilometers per hour, or 400, during the unveiling, officials reportedly said that the system has already been successfully deployed 5 times. The officials also noted that the missiles are cost-effective and rival some Russian cruise missiles in performance. Ukraine's missile development program has gained momentum since Russia's full-scale invasion in February of 2022. Good. Defense Minister Rustem Umerov announced on December 4th that Palyanitsia, a lightweight missile drone hybrid, has also entered serial production. Yeah, I remember. I think we've covered that. We've talked about Palyanitsia in previous streams. These advancements come as Western partners have only recently permitted strikes on Russia's Kursk Oblast using foreign-made missiles, while attacks deeper into Russian territory remain restricted. Despite that, we've of course seen that Ukraine has managed to be creative and has, and through multiple means has struck very deep into Russia throughout this whole war. It should be possible to do in 2 years. Hold on, is that in reference to the Crimean Bridge? Hold on. Oh, this is this is covering all of the topics that were at the top. Okay, so there's actually a lot to unpack here. There's multiple articles, topics together in this. Yeah, you know what? We'll keep going. We'll keep going through this because this is a lot of useful information. And these are actually kind of short sections composing the broader update article. Next, the Crimean Bridge is closed after Reported Ukrainian drone strikes on Kerch. The Crimean bridge was closed on the morning of December 6th amid reports of Ukrainian drones targeting the area. According to the pro-Ukrainian Crimean Wind Telegram channel, explosions were heard in the city of Kerch near the Zaliv shipyard, and air defense systems were reportedly activated in the Kerch Strait, according to Krim Reali. Vehicular traffic on the Crimean Bridge has been temporarily suspended, the Crimean Bridge Operational Information Telegram channel said. Russia's defense ministry stated on December 6 that air defense systems shot down one Ukrainian drone over Crimea overnight. The ministry also claimed that Russian Black Sea Fleet naval aviation destroyed two Ukrainian uncrewed boats heading toward Crimea in the Black Sea. The Kiev Independent could not independently verify the claims. Construction on the 19-kilometer-long bridge, which links occupied Crimea with the Russian mainland, began after the illegal occupation of the peninsula in 2014 and was completed in 2018. After becoming a critical supply route of damn it. Let's try that again. After becoming a critical supply route for Russian forces after the launch of Moscow's full-scale invasion, it has been attacked by Kiev's forces on several occasions and was heavily damaged by Ukrainian strikes in October 2022 and July 2023. On September 27th, reports suggested Russia was strengthening defenses around the Crimean Bridge, including deploying underwater drone traps. Oh, before I go any further, I almost forgot. I'm going to start the Q&A box, so that's open. Let me do that. Okay, and the Q&A has been opened. All right, back to the article. Russian proxy authorities in occupied Crimea regularly shut down traffic on the bridge amid reports of explosions and drone strikes. The Crimean Bridge is the subject of a dispute between Ukraine and Russia at the Permanent Court of Arbitration. Speaking there on September 23rd, Ambassador at Large at the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry, Anton Kornevich, said Russia wants to take the Sea of Azov and Kerch Strait for itself. Yeah, and that's... Russia wants the entire Black Sea, the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea. If they could, they'd be occupying the coast of every country in the Black Sea and putting pressure, like direct military pressure on Turkey to let them cross through that strait, which I should remember the name of, but I'm slightly sick and my head's a little fuzzy. But the strait that Turkey controls that lets ships go in and out of the Black Sea whenever they want to. Because Russia has always wanted that. Russia has never really had full naval supremacy around the world, not even when it was the Soviet Union. And they want more means of both trade and military deployment capacity into the broader world for their ships. Not sure why, because their ships are pretty shitty. I was almost sounds like a pun, but yeah, that's something that they've been seeking for. That's one big part of this war, not the only reason, but it's one big part of it. All right. The Crimean Bridge is a subject, yes. Speaking there on September 23rd, Ambassador, yeah. So it has built a great gate at their entrance to keep international shipping out while allowing small Russian river vessels in, he said, adding, the bridge is unlawful and it must come down. Agreed. Bring down the Crimean Bridge there in Kerch, the Kerch Bridge. All right, Ukrainian partisans sabotage railway line linking Moscow to Kursk Oblast, group claims. Partisans. I will never stop supporting the partisans. I will not be specific, but guys, Ukrainian partisans in multiple other countries. It can become a gray area because when you're a decentralized group, when you're cells of resistance fighters behind enemy lines in occupied territories, wherever it might be in the world, our focus, of course, being here on Ukraine. There isn't a single hierarchical structure It's really about who you know, people to people, making there's a lot of trust involved in it in order to carry out operations, like a lot. You don't have that comfort of how many stars or other indications of rank someone has on a lapel. It's just, is this person trustworthy? Do they have a reputation in our circles of getting things done? Are they against the Russians? Are they against occupation, authoritarianism, one party control, military rule, um, long term military rule, um, that sort of thing. So, all the respect to the partisans. If you can support partisans in any way that is legitimate, that you can verify is actually going to people who are good people, then I encourage it. But everyone do their own research. Everyone do their own research because I don't want to say go do something and then someone gets involved with the wrong group or something like that. But yeah, partisans have my respect. The Atesh partisan group sabotaged a key railway line linking Russia's Moscow and Kursk Oblasts, disrupting Russian supply lines, the group claimed via telegram on December 6th. An operative burned down a relay cabinet near the village of Chekhov in Moscow Oblast, Atesh said, posting undated video footage of the alleged sabotage. The Kiev Independent could not verify the group's claims. The operation aimed to disrupt Russian military logistics, Atesh reported. The targeted railway connected Moscow to Kursk Oblast, which has been partially occupied by Ukrainian forces since August. Deliveries of fuel and military equipment intended to supply Russian troops on the front lines were delayed, the group said. Ukraine launched a surprise incursion into Kursk Oblast in early August, seeking leverage against Moscow in future prisoner exchanges and peace negotiations. Russia has amassed tens of thousands of troops, including North Korean soldiers, in an effort to take back the border region. The Atesh movement regularly commits sabotage attacks on Russian territory and in Russian-occupied areas of Ukraine. The group reported a similar action against a railway in occupied Zaporizhia Oblast on November 16th. Estonian company to test AI-guided anti-drone missiles in Ukraine, CEO says. Much love to Estonia. Estonia is a great country. It's a little country, but man, just like Lithuania and Latvia, all of the Baltics, I'm going to put them all, well, yeah, because Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, the little tiny countries out there, they've all got heart, let me tell you that. Estonian defense firm Frankenberg Technologies plans to begin testing its innovative anti-drone missiles in Ukraine in 2025, ERR reported on December 6th. The company, recognized as a leading defense technology startup in Europe, has developed missiles designed to intercept Iranian Shahed drones at altitudes of up to 2 kilometers. A key feature of the system is its artificial intelligence capability for autonomous targeting. The technology is promising, and we will start testing it in Ukraine in the new year, Kusti Salm, CEO of Frankenberg Technologies, told ERR. Production will begin with a few dozen units per week and is expected to ramp up to hundreds by the third quarter of 2025. Fantastic. I really hope all of those make their way to Ukraine and get deployed and used as they need to, because that is really important. The missile tests aim to confirm the system's effectiveness under real combat conditions, the company added. Estonian Defense Minister Hanno Pevkur emphasized supporting Ukraine's military production capabilities. Speaking at the Halifax International Security Forum, Pevkur told The Hill that Ukraine can manage its defense effectively if adequately resourced. Ukrainians can handle all of this when we deliver everything they need to fight Russia, he said. The need for anti-drone missiles is underscored by Russia's surging use of Shahed-type kamikaze drones against Ukraine. According to Ukraine's Air Force, Moscow deployed 2,576 drones in November, up from 2023 in October. That's just in 1 month, guys. Drones are very cheap to produce, but they are very, very deadly. This is a war of attrition and a war of terror, where anti-drone air defense capabilities and keeping those air defense capabilities cost effective is absolutely crucial. Russian President Vladimir Putin announced in September plans to boost drone production nearly tenfold, signaling continued nightly assaults on Ukraine. Yeah, and we're at the end of the article almost, so we'll finish up. Russian President Vladimir Putin has dismissed Kursk Oblast Governor Alexei Smirnov due to management chaos following Ukraine's incursion. Opposition outlet Verstka reported on December 6th, citing sources. On December 5th, Putin appointed State Duma Deputy Alexander Kinstein as interim governor of the oblast, according to Verstka. I'm not pronouncing that right. The Kremlin began seeking Smirnov's replacement in early November, but only finalized Kingstein's appointment just a day before the announcement. Ukraine launched a surprise offensive into Russia's Kursk Oblast on August 6th. While Russian forces have since reclaimed about half of the territory seized during the initial attack, the operation has inflicted significant losses on Russia. During Smirnov's tenure, key issues reportedly included widespread discontent and protests among displaced residents from areas occupied by the Ukrainian army and clashes with local municipal leaders. So there has been discontent around the Kursk region beyond just the military operations occurring there, which is very good to note. Verstka cited claims that Smirnov's handling of defensive structures along the Ukrainian border contributed to his dismissal, with the fortifications proving ineffective. Kingstein, a former journalist and television presenter, has been a member of Russia's State Duma since 2003 and is affiliated with Putin's United Russia Party. Russia has ramped up pressure in Kursk Oblast to dislodge Ukrainian troops holding positions there since early August. Reuters reported on November 23rd that Ukraine had lost over 40% of territory previously captured during the incursion. According to Ukrainian Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrsky last month, Russia had suffered 7,905 soldiers killed, 12,220 injured, and 717 captured over 3 months of fighting in Kursk Oblast. And I definitely agree with... This looks like it's an unrelated caption and image, but once more, I think I said this in a community post. Fuck Joe Rogan, and yeah, he should go to Ukraine and see it for himself if he wants to. If he wants to talk about it as though, a lot of people who are against Ukraine in the West, especially in the U.S., don't know anything about Ukraine. And it really is as simple as people are afraid of and are and get upset about things that they don't understand. And sometimes don't want to understand. So, yeah, Joe Rogan, go fuck yourself. All right, let's go ahead and check chat before we move on to the next article. Oh, whoops. Well, yeah, let me check the chat. Joe Rogaine. Yeah, he definitely looks like he could use some Rogaine. All right. Let's see. Comments and questions. The Anzac landings, Gallipoli, World War I, had they been successful, the plan, where it's successful, was to run the straits over to the Tsarist Russia. Oh, that Anzac. For a second I was thinking of what's it called? The location Anzac Cove. I was thinking of for some reason oh god, what is it? It's got a similar name, but I think it's different. No, it is the exact same name. That's such a weird coincidence. As soon as you said Anzac, I wasn't thinking of like a location in Europe related to that battle from World War One. I was thinking of the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, the combined forces of Australia and New Zealand, because they have a defensive alliance, both of them, the Anzac forces. I was so confused. I was like, I mean, I know that they were in World War One, but which battle are we talking about involving the Kiwis and the Aussies? Sorry, I got sidetracked there for a second, but thanks for an interesting comment that derailed me for a second. I love that. Okay. All right. Any questions? Oh, do I have any information about the highly secret NATO M code GPS encryption that NATO still refuses to give Ukraine access. Schultz refers to it regarding Taurus. I've heard different things related to the M code, and honestly, I haven't done my own formal objective research on it, which I prefer to do before I'm going to make uh, statements on something. But yeah, with regards to the M code GPS encryption, I've heard some say that it hasn't been provided at all. I've heard others who have said that it has been provided, but only used in a few specific instances, like by special forces within Ukraine. Um, I don't know about its widespread use, but hold on. The last message I got from someone who is pretty knowledgeable, does their research on this sort of on topics relating to wartime logistics was oh, okay. Ukraine already had, yeah, according to this person who I won't name, but who I trust their opinion. Ukraine already has access to M code. They used the first M code enabled weapons back in June 23rd of 2023. It's about the receivers for drones or missiles. If it's about the receivers, the M code program is at least 5 years behind, and the U.S. doesn't have enough receivers for their own weapons. So I imagine it would be hard to get them to send receivers to Ukraine. I mean, they'd be awesome in a drone, but there's a huge shortage already. Americans are having to cannibalize missiles to get them for F-35s. If excuse me, if we don't have enough receivers for our jets, then it's kind of uncertain if the U.S. is going to send them to Ukraine for one-shot drones that, you know, are kamikaze. They'll be destroyed and the ships lost. The receivers lost upon impact against the enemy. So yeah, once again, like I said earlier, this is a different example, but cost effectiveness, ergonomics, economics, ergonomics, um, and uh, and economics. How cost effective and how much effort are you having to put into something for offense and defense? Um, and I think that it just comes down to yeah, some of the hardware related to M code. There's just not enough of it. The United States itself doesn't have enough of it. So, I mean, if they're willing to share information on how to produce those receivers, but the fact that there's so few of them tells me that it must be specialized. It seems like it would be not so cheap to produce. So, I don't have enough information to answer this question. I, if I'm being honest. Um, it just seems like it might be something that's a great idea, but there's just maybe the logistics just aren't in place to make it a reality. I don't know. But that being said, I have heard from a soldier who I trust that contacting representatives and letting them know that Ukraine needs access to M code encryption and any and all uh, hardware related to it, such as these receivers, in order to utilize them for their own defensive needs in their country, is something that a lot of units, a lot of soldiers are talking about right now as well. So I don't have a good answer, but out of respect for my friend who has risked his life and is out there in the field, I will say, please, myself included, do your research on M code encryption and contact your representatives telling them to provide it as well as anything pertinent to it to Ukraine so they can determine how it should best be used. So please contact your representatives about M code encryption technology being provided to Ukraine. All right. Next. Any other questions? Don't see any at the moment. Audio is way better. Perfect. Good. Yeah, last week was kind of a unique situation. Excuse me. How does M code differ from regular GPS? That's a very good question that I don't have the answer to because I have been very busy and haven't done my full research yet on the topic. It's military grade encryption. So instead of just being like GPS, regular old GPS is widespread and easily, very, very, very easily hacked at this point. M code is like GPS, but if you want your location to be secret, or if you want to prevent anyone from screwing with the system and the exact navigation path that you're charting with M code, then yeah, basically it's a lot more secure. It's military grade secured encryption. All right. And even M code is a few years old now. So I don't know. There might be some other brand new, like, you know, groundbreaking standard that's being used by the U.S. military. But if there is, whatever that is, for obvious reasons, they're not going to share that with any country. Close allies, Canada, UK, Ukraine, uh, Japan. The U.S. likes to keep things like that secret for at least a good half decade or full decade before the public even has a sniff, has a whiff of what the name of it, you know, is. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. But if it's still effective and it's still useful to Ukrainians, then, I'm all for it. Provide them with whatever they need. It's not about the boards, they're just receivers for the satellite signal. M code is way harder to spoof than Y code. Okay. Interesting. All right, anyway, let me double check the Q&A box that I opened. Nope, nothing yet. Okay, perfect. So, we will check that again before the stream is over. All right. Let's move on to the next article. With AI, oh wait, here's a question. With AI, how long until a projectile can calculate location from stars, moon, sun, old style, unhackable? Um, oh, well, here's the thing, Aussie Bugga, especially if you're talking about, wait, up till it can calculate location from stars, moon, sun. Oh, oh, I see what you're saying. I don't know how reliable that would be, because we're not talking about like a generalized location. We're talking about very specific, like, physical coordinates on an XYZ plane representing the planet Earth. Um, so, I mean, if you mean like on the fly, AI doing calculations and adjustments for a missile, based off of sensors on said missile, I don't know. I don't know if that would be feasible. I don't think it would be. I feel like there are too many factors and variables. You would rather have a connection and actual tracking of it using a satellite in order to adjust for stuff like that. But I'm also not an expert in missile technology, so I can tell you this much: the use of AI in order to make weapons deadlier, make them more accurate, make them, well, to affect how much easier or harder they are to hack. Because I'm sure we'll go back, in both directions for both defensive and offensive cybersecurity. Um, yeah, all I can say in general is that it's going to really ramp things up in that entire field, um, and make war a lot deadlier. I mean, it already was deadly, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. Russia and China have the cards. The U.S. is behind in fulfilling their own needs. The U.S. military has a couple of things that honestly, the U.S. military is pretty good in R&D, um, and really good in production of lots and lots of weapons. But it's going to need good leadership and management in the years to come. And when you've got stuff like, who was it that was it Hegseth? When you've got completely unqualified people who are supposed to be appointed to top civilian government positions related to um, uh, the oversight of the management and deployment of the U.S. military domestically and abroad, um, it's not a very good sign. You want qualified people if you're going to keep up with your adversaries. You don't want people who are just appointed because of nepotism and because of, you know, oligarchical practices. So, yeah, I really hope that the next 8 years, not just 4, I say 8 because even if even if the damage is only over 4, you're still going to have to spend another 4 fixing things afterward. And that's assuming that another Trump, either Trump or another Trump-like person, isn't still in power after 4 years in the United States. Um, yeah, it's we can only hope that we can only hope that competent people end up eventually finding their way to the offices, being put into the offices where they need to be in order to keep the U.S. military in top shape. That's what I'll say. All right. Attackums we sent, cut aid to Ukraine, find the articles that explain. Yeah, Blonde Bombsheller, if you want to send those my way, feel free to DM me with information on that. Appreciate it. All right, next article. Because I've spent a lot of time on this. And yeah, we're more than 45 minutes in. Hold on. Let's. Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Sorry, my monitor was acting up for a second there. I think Trump will cut aid. Kellen Dunn asks, I think Trump will cut aid to Ukraine to force talks and corner President Zelensky. He won't bow to Putin. Your thoughts? Interestingly enough, we have an article kind of related to this topic. I'm going to read through in a bit. But it's very possible. A lot of people are expecting Trump to treat this as a business deal. And a lot of people see Donald Trump as someone who is used to making business deals with Russian firms and Russian business entities. So it seems more likely that he would, try to cut, quote unquote, cut a deal or force a deal that would benefit, the Russian state more than Ukraine. There's also the fact that for years there was all of that really beyond the war, that really anti-Ukraine messaging that was going on about his political rival, Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden, the whole thing about his laptop and Ukrainian involvement and et cetera, et cetera. So the messaging makes it seem as though Donald Trump would try to force something that benefits Russia more than Ukraine. But also, geopolitical realities of trade aren't exactly, those still exist. And a lot of Europe is still in Ukraine's corner. And the United States doesn't, as much as it says it wants to, or is tired, quote unquote, tired of doing this or doing that in terms of defense for Europe, doesn't want to lose trade with a lot of European countries. So, as far as Trump goes, as far as the situation, it really could go any number of ways, but a big secret is going to be presenting helping Ukraine as like a heroic action, as something that that would be beneficial to Trump and would make him look good. Because the man cares about his ego. He cares about how he looks. If you can somehow pitch that, if you can somehow sell that to Trump, he's more than willing to flip on a dime. Today he might be all pro-Russia, but tomorrow he might be like, "Oh yeah, let's help Ukraine." It could go any number of ways. I'm not saying that's how it will go, but it is a possibility. We're just gonna have to wait and see. But yeah, regardless of what happens with the Trump White House, Europe as a whole needs to take a page out of Ukraine's book and start doing a lot more domestic military production as a whole for the continent, even if it means budget cuts in other categories, and helping Ukraine with with said weapons. That's where we're at right now, guys. All right. Anyway, article. All right. Yeah, Aussie Bugga. Trump does not think in a linear, irrational manner, so predicting his moves is like toss a dart. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Good point. We shouldn't go down that road because really, like I said, it could go any in any direct number of directions. So try to guide that as much as you can in a way that'll help Ukraine, but also it's probably going to be a train wreck. So focus your efforts also on other countries. The U.S. is not the end all be all, everyone. As much as Americans, especially, like to think of their country like that. All right, let me put this in chat. All right. Pro-European protests in Tbilisi. Day 9, tear gas, water cannons, 48 arrested. So this is still an ongoing matter. As I mentioned earlier in the stream, it is very, very reminiscent of the revolution. What was it? Both the Orange Revolution and the Revolution of Dignity. Both of them, but especially the Revolution of Dignity, right before the invasion of Crimea back in 2013, 2014. Ukrainians were protesting for several months. It was nonstop. They didn't let the pressure up. There were attempts to arrest leaders of different political parties. There was, fistfights in the streets. There was a lot of shady stuff going on, a lot of corruption. Yanukovych was trying to turn the country toward Russia for multiple reasons. Also, probably similar to Georgian Dream in that he had close. Oh, hold on. Sorry, I had a notification on something. 1 second. Hmm. It's not that's not the last time I've had that sound pop up. Maybe it was Discord. I don't know what it was, but something pinged at me. Um. Anyway, as I was saying, the situation is pretty reminiscent of the revolution that occurred in Ukraine right before the war started in 2014. Because it did start that long ago, 10 years ago. Everybody remember that. Um, and yeah, only time will tell. Hopefully, Georgian protesters have the same grit and the same strategic. Like it's not just blind protesting. It is a lot of outrage and people going out there being part of it just in general. Uh, that's a big part of any protest movement. But they're also going to need to have skilled leadership among opposition. They're going to need to have backup leaders because the ruling government is probably going to arrest a lot of people. They need to have a plan for how to turn members of the Georgian Dream Party against the ruling factions because always, 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 always remember this, guys. Political parties are not usually a monolith. There are usually different constituent factions, even in a multi-party system. There are strings you can pull, there are ways to break the unity of a political party. So it's going to take a lot, but hopefully they're able to take a page out of Ukrainians' books. All right, anyway, pro-European protests continue in Tbilisi from Jam News. Drawing thousands of participants, after 2 days of relative calm, the ninth night of demonstrations from December 6th to 7th was again marked by violent dispersals and arrests. Special forces used water cannons and tear gas against tens of thousands gathered peacefully outside the parliament. Kellen Dunn's got another question. Well, I'll get to your question in 1 sec. Uh, all right. Special forces used water cannons and tear gas against tens of thousands gathered peacefully outside the parliament. In response, demonstrators launched fireworks and firecrackers toward the special forces. The Georgian public defender, Levan Loseliani, addressed the Ministry of Internal Affairs, stating the dispersal began against a completely peaceful protest. There were no lawful grounds to prevent people from expressing their opinions. The Ministry of Internal Affairs must immediately halt the violence. Uh, and the detention of protest participants. This part right here, guys, and it's not just protest participants. I have friends over there in Tbilisi, and I've been told even if you're not a protester, just on the metro, on the subway, heading to and from work, because protesters are also using the subway. People are being harassed. People are being getting beaten up. Um, there's an attempt to intimidate people to keep them from going out to protest. Um, and I mean, yeah. So it's pretty scary. It's scary because if you're a citizen there, it's already an attempt to use physical violence to intimidate people, but also like there are people who are not citizens who are like asylum seekers or who are just there working. Like a lot of countries, including Republic of Georgia, has people who are non-citizens but who are there for physical safety. So I mean, it's like imagine you're just and there's a lot of hostility. So imagine you're just going to work, um, and you're a refugee or an asylum seeker or something like that, and you're not involved at all in any of these protests, but like some xenophobic, angry person who's pro regime, pro government starts harassing you and or you get arrested and then they assume you're a protester and they like try to deport you. Like it's scary for a lot of people. It's scary for citizens, it's scary for non-citizens. It's just not a good situation. But of course, despite this, you see many people continuing to protest. The new wave of mass protests began in Tbilisi and other Georgian cities on November 28th after Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze announced that the government would suspend EU accession talks until 2028. This statement came just days after the Central Election Commission officially declared the ruling party victorious in the parliamentary elections held on October 26th. Protests erupted across the country immediately as a large segment of society supports the opposition and the president's claims that the elections were rigged and that the new parliament and government are illegitimate. Thus, the ongoing protests are focused on two key demands: returning the country to the path of European integration and holding new parliamentary elections. Here we have pictures of protesters who have been physically beaten and injured. I'm guessing either at protests or on their way to or from them. People are needing to travel in groups right now because, from what I hear, if you're a lone protester, they're using the same Russian playbook. If you're like one person alone or two people alone with a sign, they'll just get a group of 5 or 6 guys who may or may not be police to throw you into an unmarked van and drive away to who knows where. Sometimes it's just to get you off the street and then throw you out and try to send a message, but that's yeah. There's a lot of political violence going on right now. Throughout the night of December 7th, large groups of special forces chased protesters not only along Rustaveli Avenue but also in other parts of the city, beating and detaining people, even in the metro. In addition to special forces, peaceful protesters last night were also confronted by unidentified individuals, one of whom was armed. It was later reported that this was pro-government businessman Avtomikadze, accompanied by his bodyguards. The protest was fully dispersed at dawn. The Ministry of Internal Affairs reported that 48 people were detained overnight, including Beka Korshia, a television host from the Matavari channel. Particular attention has been drawn to the shocking detention of 19-year-old Sandro Bukia. A widely circulated video shows his mother screaming that Sandro has epilepsy and begging the officers not to touch him as he was already experiencing a seizure. Despite this, special forces dragged the young man away, pushing his mother aside. Now, again, we do a lot of focus on Ukraine, but this is Tridents Against Tyrants, and that means tyrants anywhere. And guys, I know that there's always examples in multiple countries all the time, literally. Uh, but yeah, This is one where I've got ties to people. I know people in this country, and there's definitely tyranny. I talk with them. Like there's definitely tyranny going on right now in Republic of Georgia, and a push against it that I fully support. Since the protests erupted on November 28th, authorities have detained around 400 people. The Ministry of Internal Affairs blames protesters. Uh, the Ministry of Internal Affairs accuses detainees of administrative violations, disobedience to lawful police orders, and petty hooliganism. In a statement released on December 7th, the ministry stated that protest participants had the opportunity to express their protest peacefully, as they did in the previous 2 days, and to continue their demonstration. However, the actions of some participants turned violent. The ministry claims that protesters threw fireworks at the Parliament building and law enforcement officers stationed around it. Police officers were subjected to verbal abuse, and stones and various heavy objects were thrown at them, the statement reads. It was also reported that one Ministry of Internal Affairs officer was injured due to the use of fireworks by protesters. Later, participants moved from Rustaveli Avenue towards Heroes Square, blocking traffic on the road and engaging in a conflict with the passengers of a vehicle, who turned out to be private security for an individual, the ministry statement added. Here we see people wrapped in the Georgian flag and the EU flag. Why Russia when there is Georgia? Exactly. Detentions, beatings, unlawful searches, and arrests. So, hold on a sec. Let me check a few things. Here we go. Perfect. All right, detentions, detentions, beatings, and lawful searches and arrests. A statement by Georgian President Salome Zorabichvili. Lies and cynicism. If violence has stopped in the streets, what's the purpose of tonight's brutal raid? Abducting a child from their mother? Taking revenge on women? President Salome Zorabichvili said on X. For all those unaware, the Prime Minister is in favor of the pro-Russian government, and the President, she is in favor of closer ties to the European Union and severing or lessening ties with Russia. As an illustration, she added a video to her post featuring a statement by Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze. In it, he says that after the authorities arrested members of political parties and activists, the street violence ended. Yet, for some reason, he laughs while saying this. Zorabichvili added that Georgians fighting for their freedom and European future is met with brutal terror and repression. Gross violations of basic human rights, kidnappings, beatings, unlawful searches, and arrests persist unabated, she stated on X. Transparency International Georgia condemns violent dispersal of peaceful protests. NGOs, nonprofits, and non-government organizations have been targeted by the regime as of late to try to silence them, since they will speak out against the government and against Russia. The police, special forces, and other armed groups of Ivanishvili's regime were not only beating and detaining protest participants, but also targeting people on nearby streets. We call on Ivanishvili to stop persecuting citizens. The government's actions are repressive and represent a blatant violation of human rights, which is condemned by the democratic international community, the statement reads. Germany, France, and Poland issue joint statement on Georgia events. Yeah, we're almost at the end of the article. The foreign ministers of the Weimar Triangle countries, Germany, France, and Poland, interesting name, issued a joint statement regarding Georgia. They condemned the anti-European decision of the Georgian Dream Party and the disproportionate use of force against protesters. We reaffirm our strong commitment to supporting the democratic and European aspirations of the Georgian people. We strongly condemn the disproportionate use of force against peaceful protesters, as well as attacks on opposition representatives and media outlets. We denounce the raids on opposition party offices and civil society organizations, the arrests of political opposition members, and call for their immediate release. Fundamental rights rights, including freedom of peaceful assembly and expression, must be upheld and protected in accordance with Georgia's constitution and international commitments. We urge the Georgian Dream Party to de-escalate tensions and initiate an inclusive dialogue with all political forces and civil society representatives. It is worth noting that since the beginning of 2024, the Georgian Dream has effectively suspended the process of Georgia's accession to the European Union, which has in turn led to a deterioration in our relations with Georgia. At the next meeting of the Foreign Affairs Council, we will focus on this issue to take appropriate measures at the EU level and also consider the consequences of the Georgian Dream's actions in our bilateral relations, the statement reads. So, yeah, basically, the Georgian Dream Party is a nightmare in Republic of Georgia. And these protests are still going strong, despite the intimidation, beatings, and arrest of opposition party representatives, the threats to ban and make it illegal to be part of opposition parties. It's all out of the Russian playbook. It's all part of international strategy from the Kremlin to bring more allies into their sphere, authoritarian one-party rule allies like Belarus, to transform countries like Moldova and Sakartvelo, Republic of Georgia, into models after Belarus, compliant and reliant on Russia. That's basically it. Puppet states. So thankfully, people are not having it in Georgia. All right, let's see here. Let's see. Viper has a special bond with Georgia, and he was telling me all about what a wonderful country it is. So sad what's happening. Yeah, it's really horrible what's happening in the country. I will say this: they're trying very hard to cut off any and all resources from outside the country, and they're expecting that Turkey won't want to do anything to help. They'll just kind of ignore because they don't like Russia, but also they don't care as long as Russia doesn't get too close to their borders. What happens in Georgia, like Russian occupying forces, I mean. And Armenia has its own problems, and strengthening ties with Armenia and Georgia is tricky because doing more in favor of Armenia could send a message that drives Turkey further from NATO cooperation and closer to cooperation with Russia, instead of kind of being in this middle ground, this middle area between the two, as it has been for so long. Even though it is a part of NATO. All right. Looks like Trump and President Zelensky just met at Notre Dame, and President Xi is smiling, hoping for good signs. Hey, hopefully so, because I am not privy to the inner workings of either Trump's circle or Zelensky's circles. But if Trump wants to treat it as a business deal, and you can convince Trump that it's beneficial to keep supporting Ukraine, then yeah, hopefully there will be more resources and there will be more stuff that's sent to the Ukrainian government from the United States. It's really going to come down to, can you make Trump pissed at Putin somehow, and can you make him willing to do business with Zelensky? It's as simple as that. And I don't know the answer to that, but hopefully good signs. Hopefully, we'll see. All right, let's see what else. Hey, KNK's GG, glad to have you here. Aussie Bugga, this is very true. Not just World War II, World War I, and the wars that preceded it, because World War Zero was the Russo-Japanese War. World War II was really several conflicts that merged. To stop World War III, Russia has to lose. It's very, very true. What we're seeing right now is the same pattern that always occurs before a world war. Many small conflicts all around the world heating up all together, and then it different groups create their own alliances and begin supporting one another in their individual wars, which eventually grow into one big world war. Um, Now, thankfully, we haven't seen tactical nuclear weapons deployed anywhere in any of these conflicts, so that's good. Um, and kind of the old tradition of countries officially, quote unquote, declaring war on one another is really freaking rare. It's not really a thing as much anymore. So, like, it'll be interesting to see how things play out. But yeah, Russia needs to be stopped. And more importantly, Russia needs to be balkanized. Um, just like the Soviet Union, something has to happen that causes a big change within Russian society. All right, let's check questions real fast. Oh, here's one. What kits would be most useful to Ukraine in the next 50 days from U.S. aid? Uh, is it more amp? Excuse me. Sorry. Is it more ammo, air defense, or something new like THAAD? Uh, that's a good question. I mean, that's a very good question. I'd say it's hard to answer. I think the most useful thing that could be delivered quickly, hopefully within the next 50 days, would be more defensive systems, only because there's not yet certainty about what will or won't be provided by a Trump administration over the next 4 years. So being able to hold positions, hold out longer would be helpful, um, especially in the Kursk region. Because remember, even if Russia keeps pushing and pushing and trying to take more and more from the east heading west, it's going to, like, Ukraine is holding the line, and barring some massive breakthrough by the Russian side, which hopefully does not happen, that seems like it's going to continue to be trench warfare and be something where Russia, any gains that they take would be incremental and, um, and small, like very, like little by little. But the Kursk region, holding that's something that eventually would force a negotiation, assuming with or without American help, European powers rally and really start doing a lot more to help Ukraine. Um, it really, I mean, yeah, the United States helping is a big part of it, but guys, it really comes down to Europe because even if like, let's say, even if Russia were fully pushed out, and or this war were to at least stabilize and like become a bit more of a frozen conflict without Russia taking any more ground with their assault forces, with their army. Um, it's still Russia's just going to regroup and try again. So having that strong domestic support against Russia, that's a long-term necessity, not just for Ukraine but for the whole of Europe. And the sad part is kind of like it doesn't have to be exactly the same. It doesn't have to be the same nightmare situation of social safety nets basically being a joke, non-existent or gutted to the point where they're meaningless like they are in the United States for a lot of people. But and you don't have to like take money out of public education or anything. Definitely don't do that. You need that absolutely to avoid political situations like what you see in the United States. Um, but something has to change. European nations, the EU as a whole, NATO countries beyond the United States, there has to be some new organizational model that pushes for them to spend more money on their own defense. Um, because we're seeing now that the United States, uh, if one day the United States weren't there or weren't willing to help NATO countries, kind of like how Russia has not helped their allies in Syria and has not helped their allies, well, they had back when Armenia thought that Russia, at least as a business partner, would be a defensive ally for them against Turkey and Azerbaijan. Um, if the United States ever gets to where it's really breaking its promises and so inwardly focused, it's not going to help certain people who had said that it might, like Russia as an example. Um, Europe needs to be able to stand on its own. Ukraine is paving the way toward that, but the rest of the continent needs to wake up and get on board. That's my opinion. Um, anyway, sorry, I went off topic, but to answer this question, I would say air defense systems personally, and other forms of weaponry that can be used to take down drones and really hold the line. That would be the most important thing to be delivered in the next 50 days. Thanks for a great question. All right. Kursk is most valuable to Ukraine and needs to hold through peace talks. Do I agree? Oh yeah, no, I don't. I absolutely agree with that. Um, because yeah, that's something that'll force Russia to. I mean, unless Russia wants to just say they don't care about it, which I mean, they have a propaganda machine, so who knows? Maybe with enough time, they could sell something like that. They could be like, "We took land, they took land. Ah, it's all fine." And be quiet, because if you don't think it's fine, then you go to jail. I don't know. It's possible they could try to sell something like that to Russians who have no ties to Kursk, but it seems unlikely to me. There are too many hardliners in Russia who wouldn't accept that. So yeah, they definitely need to hold it through peace talks. Um, next question from Kellen Dunn. Has anyone suggested reviving Lend-Lease to Ukraine since it shows Trump is making Ukraine pay to his MAGAs? Biden allows it to expire, but would be useful to Ukraine. I mean, possibly. That's something that could be a strategy to pitch to the Trump administration. Um, that could maybe work. I feel like there's going to be economic issues for the Trump administration over the next couple of years that they're going to panic about because they don't realize how their policies might do major damage in certain ways, or they don't care. So it might go beyond just a one-on-one deal between Ukraine and the US. There might need to be European allies willing to vouch for and cover part of or promise to you know support payments alongside Ukraine. But I think it could be done either with one-on-one talks between Trump and Zelensky or multilateral talks with multiple countries in Western Europe. But also remember, France has got a political crisis going on. Germany has a political crisis that's probably gonna heat up in again soon. Uh, Romania just annulled their presidential election, which is controversial, but they removed a guy who was going to be super pro Putin in Russia, it looks like. Uh, Bulgaria is holding the line, but has their own issues domestically with their politics and pro EU and pro Russia groups. Uh, even though that hasn't been in the news yet, that's still something that's simmering under the surface. Uh, and then, of course, there's the situations in Republic of Georgia and Moldova, and Hungary is going to be something that probably doesn't change anytime too soon. Although there are some stirrings of a described center-right party instead of far-right populist like Orban's party. So there could be a shift there at some point, but I wouldn't count on it. And Slovakia also has protests going on that aren't covered as much, but there are people pissed about FISO and the direction that country is going. So there's there's a lot going on. Um, my point being that some of the leaders of the European Union and NATO in Europe are really distracted with their own domestic issues. So it's not an um, as much as we say rally, Europe, rally, rally. A lot of the countries are having trouble rallying and holding stability within their own ranks. So we'll see. What else? Okay, were there any other questions? I don't think so. I think that covers all of them. Okay. All right, on to the next article because we're already, wow, an hour and 20 minutes in. Okay. Where am I at? There it is. Next one is a piece from, geez, come on. A piece from Politico.com. Let me put it into chat. Ozzy says apparently when meeting the Finnish prime minister after Finland had declared intention to join NATO, Putin first asked, "So you don't want Karelia back?" If that sounds like an anecdote about how deluded Putin is. It's like, no, most countries aren't looking to invade and take stuff back, but with how crappy Russia's been acting, I mean, Russia acts like a direct invasion is how other countries would quote unquote take back parts of territory. First of all, even if that were possible under any scenario, military or otherwise, I don't think Finland would want it back for multiple reasons. Primarily because Finland doesn't have a super, you know, inwardly focused nationalist party in power. And second of all, because Karelia these days is full of Russian speaking residents. Normal countries don't want to have to deal with, integrating people who have an incredibly different social and political background and language based background. Like that's been a headache. No, Finland doesn't want Karelia. Exactly. So I don't know if that anecdote is true or not, but if it were, then it sounds more like a tongue-in-cheek jab at Finland than anything else. Um, yeah. Anyway, all right. Let's see. Yeah, exactly. Kellen Dunn said it best. Integrating Karelia back to Finland would be cost prohibitive and full of crazy Russians. Exactly. Nobody wants that. Finland doesn't want that. Japan doesn't want that. Do you think Japan wants to deal with any of the islands that have Russians on them right now? Unless it's like a really, really low population number? No. No, they don't. No one wants to absorb, you know, Russian speaking citizens, and no one wants to commit war crimes among Western alliances to like no one wants to have the same kind of PR situation as, controversially, we'll bring up this subject for a moment. No one wants to create their own Israel Palestine situation. No one wants to invite that situation for their country. No one wants to become Russia either, where they're purging and genociding people. And I think Russia doesn't understand this. The delusion is the fact that Russia, because they realize that there is corruption and power politics in every country, they assume that every country is just like them, that they want to, and if they have the chance, they will go out and do the direct military invasions that Russia's doing. Nobody's talking about that. Nobody wants to do that. Um, no, yeah, but try explaining that to, Russian mill bloggers, and they're just going to say, "Oh, you're too naive. You don't know how the world works. Everyone is still an empire." It's like, no, no, no. In the modern world, there are still power politics and superpowers, but like you guys are the only ones going about acting like you're fucking czarist Russia needing to invade and kill and absorb tribes and stuff, okay? Like, let's be real here. All right, anyway. Oh, Aussie Bug is on Blue Sky. Okay, well, you know what? I will make a Blue Sky account. I don't know how much time I'm going to have because I already do YouTube and Discord, along with all my other stuff, but I have been needing to make at least a Facebook page or like Threads account or Blue Sky or something for this. So, yeah, you know what? I think I'll make a Blue Sky for Tridents Against Tyrants. I'll try to do that sometime later today. All right, anyway, article. I'm getting hyper focused on chat. Let's finish up with this. From Politico, how Trump can do better on Ukraine than Biden did. Oof. So this may be, I don't know how much I'm going to agree with this, but also I don't know how much of this is someone being a legitimate admirer of Trump versus someone who is basically just trying to offer an example of the kind of language um, to feed Trump's ego in a way that would make him feel as though, you know, he's like seen as the good guy, the hero, doing something good for America by helping Ukraine. So let's read on and see. Let's see what the tone of this article is. Ukraine sympathizers fly a half U.S., half Ukrainian flag at the U.S. Capitol on February 1st, 11th. Oh, well, there's an image, but it's not showing because I have this in reader mode. Okay, Eric S. Edelman was Undersecretary of Defense for Policy from 2005 to 2009 and is counselor at the Center of Strategic and Budgetary Assessments. David J. Kramer, Executive Director of the George W. Bush Institute, served as Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, and Moldova from 2005 to 2008. Interesting. Okay. Huh. Oh, yeah, that would have been up to 2008, so that would have been the Bush era. Right, even there, George W. Bush Institute. Okay, okay. Whether to push Ukraine toward a peace deal with Russia is shaping up to be one of the first and most important foreign policy decisions to face the second Trump administration. 1,000 days into Russia's latest round of brutal aggression in Ukraine, some are advising President-elect Donald Trump to pressure Ukraine to give up territory and its desire to join NATO to reach a peace agreement, while others see a hasty capitulation to Russia's demands as creating more problems than it solves by emboldening Russian strongman Vladimir Putin. We've both served in top foreign policy posts in Republican administrations, and we think that Trump's stated foreign policy aims, particularly, quote, peace through strength, would be best accomplished by continuing to support Ukraine and standing up to Putin. The pro-Ukraine camp in his new administration has a chance to convince him of that if they make the right case. Here's the argument we would make if we were advising Trump on Ukraine. I know a lot of people don't like to talk about Trump, but I mean, it's a conversation that has to be had because, you know, again, the next 4 years are going to be insanity. Let's see. No one wants to absorb Russian thinking people. Yeah, no one wants to absorb people who have views and support things similar to what the Russian government does. Yeah. True, Nurse Sean. All right. Next, here's the argument we would make if we were advising Trump on Ukraine. President Trump, your return to the White House comes amid a growing chorus of voices calling for negotiations with Moscow to end the war in Ukraine, especially given a rising consensus that the situation on the battlefield has deteriorated and that the outlook for Ukraine has grown more perilous. Ukrainians, as well as their Western supporters,
This line of argument goes, are suffering from war fatigue. But the fact that many in the United States are ready to sell out Ukraine doesn't mean it's the best move. In fact, it would not only not end the war, but it would create an even bigger menace to the United States in the form of Vladimir Putin's Russia. Since your election victory, Putin has ignored your reported request to not escalate the war. In fact, he's done exactly that, including launching an intermediate range ballistic missile that appears to be a successor to a missile the Russians were developing in violation of the INF Treaty, from which you rightly withdrew. He continues to rain down missiles and drones on Ukrainian civilian targets and energy supplies, inflicting horrible harm on Ukraine's citizens. He shows no interest in any negotiated settlement, unless it would be one in which he could declare victory by keeping significant Ukrainian territory, nullifying Ukraine's goal of NATO membership, dictating Ukraine's leadership, and leaving a rump Ukraine that would be vulnerable to renewed aggression. Such a deal is not something you should want to own. Even entering into negotiations on this basis could lead to a Ukrainian collapse that would mar your first year in office. What's more, such a deal would be a display of weakness, one that Putin would exploit and the Chinese leadership would view as an opening for its ambitions toward Taiwan. Iranian leaders would also read it as a withdrawal of the United States from the global stage and open season for their designs against Israel. Cutting a deal on Ukraine that favors Putin, in other words, would lead to greater instability and escalation around the world, maybe even World War III. The better approach is to stand up to Putin and support a Ukrainian victory over Russian forces. Helping Ukraine win is not only the right thing to do, but it would advance U.S. national security and send a warning to U.S. enemies and bolster your new presidency and America's standing in the world. Putin started this war, and he's the one who could end it tomorrow. The problem is that he still thinks he can defeat Ukraine, replace its leaders, and occupy large chunks of the country, which he doesn't view as a separate independent state. He also thinks he can outlast the West. You have an opportunity, even a duty, to prove Putin wrong. To be sure, nobody wants the war to end sooner than Ukrainians themselves. They are the ones fighting and tragically dying from Putin's barbaric aggression. But the many crimes against humanity committed by Russian forces against Ukrainian children, soldiers who have surrendered, and average citizens have strengthened many Ukrainians' determination to see this war through to victory. We shouldn't force them into a bad deal with Putin. It is true that Ukrainians are frustrated and demoralized by the Biden administration's dilatory responses to Ukrainian requests for specific weapons systems, despite the recent partial easing of restrictions on the use of U.S. made weapons to counter Russia's escalation of the conflict. Your election offers you an opening to do what the outgoing administration failed to do: speed up the decision making process to provide Ukraine the weapons it needs. Oh, and you'll notice that there's a lot of framing this of how you can blame the Democrats, and it really could go either way, because Trump probably will. He'll blame the other side, whether he decides to say, we're not going to help Ukraine anymore, or we're going to help Ukraine way more because the Democrats weren't doing enough. You can kind of notice that in the language here. So obviously, this is written by two George Bush era Republican advisors. I don't know how much weight this would have if they presented an argument like this to Donald Trump and his administration, but we'll see. Hopefully, someone does present something similar. Um, but it has to be not just what's good for America. There has to be something unstated that would benefit Donald Trump, I think. But as far as an official pitch, this isn't too bad. Let's see the rest of this. Owing to Biden's delays, again, like I said, framing it in a way that Trump would like, the Ukrainians have been fighting with one hand tied behind their back. Still, their indigenous development of drone capabilities has delivered serious blows to Russia's efforts and demonstrated its ability to reach distant targets inside Russia. Imagine what the Ukrainians could have accomplished had the West delivered the assistance Ukraine needed when it needed it. Imagine how much worse off Russia would be were it not for help from U.S. adversaries, including Iran, North Korea, and China. Imagine what you can do by untying Ukraine's hands and letting them fight with the support from the United States that they need. And don't believe Putin's nuclear bluster. Ukraine and the West have already crossed so many so-called Russian red lines, not least Ukraine's August incursion into Russian territory in the Kursk Oblast, that Putin's threats... Oh, I think my computer might have just oh no, hold on. Did my computer freeze? Oh no. Hold on, if you can still hear me. No way. Great. Okay, let's see. Okay, no, that's working. All right, let's see. Okay, there we go. I was I was concerned there for a moment. Hey, James, whyukraine.com. Good to see you, buddy. That Putin's threats to use tactical nuclear weapons have lost much of their credibility. Sadly, Putin continues to ring that bell, hoping that, like Pavlov's proverbial dogs, the U.S. continues to self-deter. I'm going to say something right quick because for anyone who's just tuning in, this is an example pitch from pro-Ukrainian Republicans how they would try to convince Donald Trump to assist Ukraine instead of doing what a lot of people see as more likely, which is, you know, conduct policy that would be detrimental to Ukraine. Um, leave out things like references to Pavlov's dogs uh, and anything else like that, because Donald Trump, he's the kind of person where maybe he knows that reference, but maybe he doesn't. And if you're referencing things he doesn't know, if you're doing anything that makes him think that you might make him look stupid because he would have to ask something and say he doesn't know something. I don't know. I don't know the man well enough to say this, but his psychological profile to me seems like one where you should avoid having specific references that might make him look stupid if he doesn't understand them. You want to use convincing language, but language that is going to be universally understood, including by a man like Trump. Even though it's outnumbered, it's outnumbered and now faces the introduction to more than 10,000 North Korean soldiers onto the battlefield. Ukraine has managed to destroy Russia's Black Sea Fleet, regain more than 50% of the territory Russia occupied in the initial stages of the full-scale invasion, inflict losses of more than 700,000 Russians killed and wounded, and taken over chunks of the Kursk region. Yes, Russian forces are on a very slow but accelerating march in the Donbas part of Ukraine, but at enormous cost. Western intelligence agencies estimate that September and October were Russia's bloodiest months in the full-scale war. That's really saying something because there's a lot in the news about Ukraine running low on different logistics, weapons, supplies. So the fact that right now at this current stage in the war, those were the bloodiest months of the war for Russia. Um, that's pretty. It's pretty interesting. Damn. Uh, the war continues to rage. It continues to rage on. The North Koreans' arrival signaled both a disturbing widening of the conflict, but also Putin's desperation to avoid a second mobilization that risks angering Russians in Moscow and St. Petersburg. He does not have enough troops to win unless he risks serious domestic unrest. Putin is at a turning point. The economic costs of the special military operation are beginning to take their toll. The Russian government reportedly has cut by two-thirds its compensation payment to soldiers not gravely wounded in the war from the equivalent of $33,000 down to $11,000. Oh, interesting. Yeah, so they're running out of money to give to soldiers and their families. Gonna have to do more potato baskets. Official inflation is running at 9% per year. Government interest rates are at 21. Now here we go. These are the kind of things. These are the kind of things that you present to a person like Trump. Numbers, because even if he doesn't have other things that he knows, at least, you know, percentage numbers or something to present. Labor shortages abound. The Bank of Russia now estimates 2025 GDP growth at a paltry 0.5 to 1.5%, and the ruble is plummeting in value. Russia can't afford to keep up the war much longer. Cutting off U.S. military assistance to Ukraine and rushing to negotiate will not lead to a lasting settlement. Although sources supposedly close to the Kremlin like to highlight Putin's openness to a deal, spokesman Dmitry Peskov recently pointed out that simply, quote, freezing the conflict along current lines of contact wouldn't be acceptable to the Russian leader. Putin is trying to signal that he has the upper hand, but he doesn't. What's more, an imposed settlement on Ukraine would create dangers for the United States from other parts of the world. It would make Taiwan more vulnerable to Chinese aggression by potentially communicating to President Xi Jinping that he too could get away with such a move. It would signal an American retreat from the global stage and risk reinforcing the impression, like the one that followed Biden's abysmal 2021 withdrawal from Afghanistan. Again, like I pointed out earlier, stroke the man's ego, keep pointing out and blaming Democrats on things, even though that's a war that went across both administrations with waffling strategy in general from both Republicans and Democrats. But I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Again, presenting it in a way that Trump would like in an argument, that the United States is an unreliable security partner. You can do better than the outgoing administration did. And don't be fooled by those who worry about the prospect of Ukraine joining NATO. Welcoming Ukraine into NATO would be a complicated undertaking for sure, but rejecting the prospect would be an unmistakable sign of weakness, grant Putin a de facto veto over NATO membership, and remove the most certain deterrent you have to future aggression from Russia. Should the Ukrainians decide that it's time to sit down with their Russian invaders and negotiate an end to the war, that would be their call to make. Pressuring them into doing so would demoralize their fighters on the front lines and undermine any leverage that you and the Ukrainians would have to actually get a deal. Finally, supporting Ukrainian victory over Russia would enable the United States to focus more on China. It would allow the United States to reaffirm its leadership on the global stage and demonstrate that peace through strength works. You have a golden opportunity to use your second term to demonstrate the return of American strength and leadership by helping Ukraine win and making sure Putin's defiance and aggression aren't rewarded. So, yep, that is their pitch, their opinion piece in Politico.com. Uh, and it's not a bad one. It's not a bad one. No guarantee that something like this would work. I think a big thing is you could pitch something like this to a man like Trump and get him to agree, but I don't see Donald Trump as a patient man. So, how long you'd be able to get him to agree to give a whole lot of stuff to Ukraine, um, knowing that at least some portion of his support base among MAGA American conservatives in and out of the Republican Party would be opposed to it. I don't know how long. Again, like trying to predict what will happen and the way that a man like Donald Trump will make decisions to do things is. I don't want to feed into the myth that it's impossible because it's definitely possible. Um, but he's the kind of person where don't expect long-term strategic decisions. Expect him to run things like a CEO who's looking at short-term quarterly gains. Um, so a few long-term decisions here and there that seem arbitrary, but then bigger focus on whatever he thinks is going to make him look good and benefit him the most within a few months to a year, you know. Um, anyway, wanted to share that because this seemed like an important topic to cover. Because yeah, continued American support is going to be important. In addition to both, growing domestic European support and dealing with a person like Trump, unfortunately, is now part of that equation at this time. Have to make all that in short, choppy sentences. Yeah, yeah, I agree, Anna. How long does? Let's see here. Oh man, yeah. All right, let's see here. Oh yeah, give Viper our best. Thanks for being here, Blonde Bombsheller. Good to see you. Uh, all right. Oh, and I don't know if James is still here with us, but if he is, as I mentioned earlier, please reach out to your representatives about M.dot encryption systems, everybody. For the Ukrainian armed forces, that should be something that should be brought up as well. But not just the hold on. The not just M code, but also any associated receivers and other hardware related to them, related to it. Those are all things that would need to be provided. And yeah, please reach out to your representatives regarding that. Let's see. Okay. Perfect. All right. Yeah, exactly. Scaramucci says you have to watch out for his oppositional defiant disorder. Don't tell him what to do, let him pick among options. Don't press too hard. Yeah, yeah, that's true. You need to provide certain options, but make a strong argument for the things that would be the better course of action. Oh, Nurse Sean, Politico. You'll find and share this. I put it in the chat earlier. Let me put it in chat again, so you have that, so you can copy that real fast if you like. Um, we'll take a look at the map here in a sec, and then we're gonna finish up the stream. Um, yeah, because I still got other meetings I need to get to later today. Let's see. So yeah, there's the link in chat. I'm seeing a lot of videos of a happy President Zelensky at Notre Dame after his meeting with Trump and Macron. That's good. That's good. Assuming that those are articles that are being put forward, not just from like a random viral moment where he happened to smile about any topic, but perhaps there's actually some knowledge of positive results, and so different news outlets have kind of like a cascading effect. One person who is in the know published something, and then you know it's gone viral from there. I hope that's the case. Hopefully so. Oh yeah, blonde bombsheller. The sent. Yes, I will check that DM. Um, let me go ahead and look at that real fast. Let me make sure. Anyone who hasn't joined the Discord, I think that link is still good, but I'd actually don't know for certain. Someone who's listening, who maybe isn't in our Discord yet, could someone see if that link actually works? I'm like 90% certain it does. Yeah, okay, actually, I just took a look and it looks like it does. Yeah. Okay, yeah, never mind. It looks like that link is working. I just didn't know if I needed to replace it or not. Um, all right, let's check questions real fast. Oh, another one from Kellen Dunn. Trump is a simpleton. Easy clickbait language works. He can be FDR 2.0, strongest man in history, etc. That's how to sell to Trump. I do agree. I 100% agree. But yeah, you also so you need exactly. You need to stroke the man's ego a little bit, and make him think it's his idea, or that it's just make him think it'll. He's a little bit of a narcissist and a megalomaniac, I would say. So just make him think that he'll be seen as the greatest person ever among all Americans. Because remember, he's even said it out loud. I don't care about you, I care about your vote. I mean, like, among his MAGA supporters who get a lot of Russian propaganda and general, disinformation, far right, uh, hyper conservative, sometimes fascist, even propaganda from different sources, uh, news sources, and social media. Like, there's always going to be someone who's going to be upset if he does decide to support Ukraine. The big thing is to try to drown out those voices, or make it like, get Trump so strongly on board with it. Get Trump so strongly on board with it that when those voices try to criticize him for it, he turns on them and he says, "What? You suddenly turned into Midas Touch, or you turned into one of these other outlets that don't like me? You're turning into Fox News when they sometimes don't like what I have to say?" And then have him go after those, like you with a person like Trump, he's willing to lash out at pretty much anyone. So, turn the dogs onto one another within his camp. Like that's you know, that's something that could possibly work. But anyway, all right, let's continue onward. I'm going to look at this article really fast. Deep strike, sim code that navigates. Hmm. Okay. Uh. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and put this article into chat for people to read. Um. To get more knowledge about M code, so they can reach out to the representatives regarding it. From the Eurasian Times. All right, there we go. So, all right. Ozzy Bugga says, promise to rename Simferopol to Trumpton after liberation by Ukraine. I okay. I think some Ukrainians, especially Ukrainians who just like many Americans in general don't like Trump, would be very unhappy by that. But that's creative thinking. That's really creative thinking. I like that you're thinking outside the box on how to pitch stuff. Uh, do I have a Discord link? You don't see it? Oh yeah, it randomly posts. I have a bot that posts it. So sometimes you'll see a post pop up from Nightbot. Nightbot is yeah, you'll sometimes see stuff that's relative to the channel posted there. All right, now then. Okay, let's what next? Let's go back to oh shoot, where did it disappear to? There we go. Let's go to the deep state map and take a look really fast. I'm curious also, not just I'm surprised that there's not any dots here, even, indicating stuff with protests, because they've got over here Orban's pro-Russian regime, the clown, and then the deep. Ah, come on, don't lag. Just zoom where I want you to. They've got events happening. They've got events and important locations in Belarus marked. Um, they've got Minsk marked, I think, with a hammer and sickle because they're really Soviet shilling. Lithuania. Here's Ukraine, Belarus. Kaliningrad, East Prussia temporarily occupied. Oh, here we go. Ostrov Air Base. Yes, specific events that have happened in other countries, like this from 2022 that happened over. Oh no, Pskov. That's over. Whoop, hold on. Yeah, that's within Russia. So they got stuff within Russia. They've got occupied regions from way back in World War II that used to be outside of the fake Federation. I'm surprised that there isn't more on here with big stuff like that. Um, Even Moldova. Look at Moldova. Maybe it's because they just don't have the information. But they've got battalions, Russian battalions, marked that are there occupying Transnistria in Moldova. There absolutely are similar units over here with the separatist armed forces in Abkhazia and South Ossetia. I'm just kind of gushing a little bit, like I guess, well, not gushing. What's the word I'm looking for? I guess I'm just kind of analyzing this as I go a little bit because it's like it's good that they have all of these areas marked so people can learn a bit about them, but I'm surprised they don't have more. It might just be the connections to different intel and the names. Like this is all happening far away from Ukraine, even if it's interconnected. So it might just be that they don't have that information being shared with them, or it's not been a big focus because obviously there's way bigger things that Ukraine is focused on all across the front line. And this is a much more pressing concern. Hold on, let me. Nope. All right, let's take a look at Kursk. And let's go back to early November and take a look as the days go by. So, oh, that's the wrong. There we go. Oh, seriously? Hold on. It's because I have the screen so small right now. There we go. Okay, so going back to November 1st, let's see how the front lines in Kursk have evolved over time. Also, let's move this so we can see. So yeah, as you can see from the initial point of taking territory on Ukraine's part, in Kursk, a lot of it has been unfortunately reclaimed by the enemy. Ukraine is trying to focus on holding more of Kursk without losing the entirety of what they managed to capture in their surprise attack. Don't forget though that Ukraine has plenty of options for other places where they could launch a similar attack and quite possibly catch Russia unawares once more. I don't know if they will do that, but Kursk is not the only place on this giant border that's vulnerable. It's not the only place, even not including the border, where where Russians might be vulnerable to Ukrainian intelligence operatives helping to work with perhaps groups in Chechnya and start something here. Or I'm I'm 100% certain. I don't know how much influence they actually have, but at the very least, for observational reasons, I am certain there have to be some intelligence operatives from Hurmo or from other like more foreign focused intelligence agencies of Ukraine operating over here on the ground during these protests in Tbilisi and across Georgia. If there weren't, then I would be incredibly surprised, and that would seem like a missed opportunity to have someone deployed for a mission. If I were an intelligence director in Ukraine, I would have people on the ground there. But also, I wouldn't want people to know that I had people on the ground there. So, again, for us, it's just speculation because if they're good at their jobs, you're not going to hear anything about them other than Russian propaganda blaming Ukraine and the West for everything they don't like that's happening in the world. Okay, let's take a look at the rest of the front lines. I heard there was something happening in Luhansk. Let's go back a bit. Let's go to, same thing, November 1st. And take a look at Luhansk. Like right here. Okay. So we see small incremental gains. Russia trying to push to take land that Ukrainians liberated back in 2022, trying to create the cauldron effect. Probably, oh yeah, there we go. December. Okay, there we go. So we see them continuing to create a cauldron around Kupiansk. So Kupiansk is stable for now. I mean, I guess it really comes down to, is Kupiansk well fortified enough that if the Russians get closer and then they manage to, they're not going to easily get across that river. The rivers help a lot with natural defense as a natural defense. So it really just comes down to, can Kupiansk, successfully defend against an attack from the east in multiple directions if the Russians eventually manage to creep their way up and take Kiev Sharivka, Kupiansk Vuzlovyi, Podoli, all of this, and put pressure on it from all sides. They're trying to do that, but yeah, more realistically, this is probably what we're seeing here. You see how they're creeping down this way, and they probably eventually want to start trying to move closer to this road and have fire control. I think the Russians are slowly creeping down this way because they want to cut off supplies from Kupiansk to these other, probably to other towns, but also unmarked military bases over here, further to the east, so they can take more from the eastward direction and slowly move toward Kupiansk. But I don't think their goal right now directly is Kupiansk itself. I think it's just to get close enough to start bombarding this road in case maybe Kupiansk is sending out supplies. You can see they already have right here fire control, but there's no town over here. So I think that might be unrelated. Like, there are no towns other than Pavlivka over here. So, like, any bases would be ad hoc. They wouldn't be inside of towns or villages that we're seeing here on this map. Unless there are some that are so tiny that they just don't pop up at all here. Anyway, my point being, Ukrainians have been doing a good job of pushing them back, although they are still creeping forward. Don't keep your eyes off of Kupiansk, but also don't expect any big announcements, I guess, because I guess their only real goal would be Petropavlivka. This is probably the one that's in the most danger. I don't think there would be like a big news announcement if there are some unmarked bases like over here in the countryside that fell. Um, I think that the news would probably be like, if they take Petropavlivka at some point, like, I don't know, in the next 5 or 6 months, then Kupiansk would be in danger. And I think that's the Russians' goal. They're not going after Kupiansk just yet. They're going after Holubivka's on the other side of the river. Yeah, no, I think that's probably their goal. Either that or try to, as you can see, they got across the river over here. So either that or the only other thing that would make sense to me would be, hold on, let me go back a little. Oh yeah, they are also moving towards Zapadne. Okay, so I think they have two approaches. One is to take that city to the east. The other would be to creep their way through, take Zapadne, because they finally got across. They got across this river over here, so they've got a breakthrough where they can take fire control of this road, go after Dvorichna, Zapadne, Kindrashivka, Radkivka, Holubivka, and then creep their way more across the river and go south toward Kupiansk. So yeah, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. They do have a breakthrough on this river right here. Mm. So hopefully in Luhansk, Ukrainians manage to push them back across this river again, because that's pretty important. You don't want you don't want to be losing these cities over here, and then Kupiansk to the south be put under more pressure, be put under risk. So that's probably That's probably a place where now, for a long time, things were really not a lot was happening in Luhansk for many, many, many months that I recall. So this is probably a time where extra resources from the armed forces to push the Russians back up over here would be very helpful. Okay. Anyway, we're just gonna we're just gonna do those two sections. I don't think anything has changed too much over here near Kherson yet. Uh, we do see more creeping, more taking of territory, unfortunately, over here uh, in the Zaporizhia Oblast. Um, we do see this Kurakove and pushing toward Pokrovsk more, pushing toward the borders of Donetsk. So we're seeing we're seeing the enemy push harder and harder to take more and more of Donetsk so they can have a border established and say, we took all of it, you know? We didn't waste all of those lives of young men and women who we sent into Ukraine, you know? We took, you know, this section, Luhansk and Donetsk, the whole of the Donbass, etc., etc. Um, yeah. So anyway, um, mm, in Donetsk, it's not looking that great. In Luhansk, they've got an opportunity to prevent it from getting worse and expanding past Luhansk back into further and further, little by little closer to Kharkiv. But over here, let's see. Yeah, it doesn't seem like a whole lot is changing over here on this little buffer zone that Russia had tried to create when they, yeah, pushed over here closer to Kharkiv. Yeah. All right, but that's the map for today. We will go over it again sometime soon. Some other announcements. First, let me make my usual donation. I'm going to make a donation right now. Do anyone who wants to join me? Oh wait, do I? Did I forget to turn on the? Oh, I think I did. Uh, hold on. Do, 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 do. Wait, nope, no, it is on. Have the Oh, it's because I'm on the map, so it might not be popping up. Yeah, let me. Has the PayPal been popping up like it's supposed to? Let me see. See. Oh no, that's the at lower thirds. Dang it! Where did I put that? It's been popping up in chat, I know, but hold on. Let me just pull it up on the screen itself. Let me get out of this. Da, da, da. Might not have been. Hmm. Yeah, I don't have that on usually. I'll have to play with that a little bit more later. Because
I'm realizing it's been a minute since I've made changes directly to that part of my setup. So I'll play around with that more later. But for now, I'll just go ahead and put it into the chat. Uh, there's the Monobank link, and there's the PayPal link. Let me get the PayPal link. So I'll put the Monobank first, but it doesn't always work for people outside of Ukraine. And there is the PayPal link. Well, it's not really a link. Just Google Anton Tkachenko, my friend who volunteers and helps the 110th Mechanized Brigade and others as well. And that's how to make a PayPal donation. So I've put both of those into chat. Oh, Ozzy Bucket says he lives an hour from the Vietnam border. I've been there dozens of times. They all call it Saigon amongst themselves. Oh, I forgot. Uh, I won't say it outright because I don't know if you want people to know what country you're in. Oh, no, you already did say it. Yes, Cambodia. Okay, but yeah, very interesting. Yeah. It's also very interesting that many people in Vietnam call Ho Chi Minh City by the name Saigon. That's really interesting. If you ever meet Vietnamese from California, I know a lot of folks out there who still call it Saigon, who the Vietnamese government isn't very happy with some of their political opinions and actions. Um, it's an interesting point of conversation that the US and Vietnam just kind of don't talk about because they both have bigger issues with China, so they don't want to dig up it. There's not a desire to create animosity with one another between Vietnam and the U.S. right now. Um, all right. Anyway, let me make this donation. Yeah, no problem. Glad I could bring that up, James. Are there any other? I don't think so. I don't think there are any other questions right now. So let me finish this donation. All right. There we go. So I'm not sure if Anton is here with us right now, but I sent mine. So if he is awake right now, then hopefully he'll get that and update the the progress bar. Um, yeah, Vietnam wants to be America's friend as an insurance against PRC. Yeah, that's a pretty good way to put it. Yep. Yeah, the Vietnamese government definitely has its issues, as many countries do, as the United States increasingly is starting to have, unfortunately. But yeah, they they're very aware of the danger of being isolated when trying to deal with China. Um, they pushed them back once right after the Vietnam War during the Sino-Vietnamese War, but not really. It was more of in certain ways a stalemate for both sides, and both sides just decided to declare that they were victorious. Really interesting war. The last time Vietnam and China fought one another in the 70s or 70s or early 80s. Can't remember which. Anyway, all right, where was I? Donations done, everything else is done. Gonna look over the rest of this later. Yeah. All right, perfect. Well, once again, if anyone has an interest, I've got a few people I'm going to reach out to. But if anyone wants to be involved more with Tridents Against Tyrants, I invited a friend of mine, but they have so much going on right now. Stuff that actually is like pretty major related to. I just want them to make sure that they stay physically safe.
That yeah, the person I was going to work on stuff with, I told them no, just don't worry about it. Focus on your own stuff. So I got a few more people I'm going to reach out to. If you would be interested, if you are a viewer who has an interest in geopolitics and helping Ukraine and standing against tyrants anywhere in the world at all times, um, then definitely reach out at Tridents Against Tyrants at gmail.com. Um, Beyond that, didn't have time to do it this week, but I'm going to do it. I guess I'll do it today when I'm also looking over the blue sky stuff. Um, the we are approved now for super chats on this channel, so I'm finishing getting that set up so we can have super chats available for people who want to give that way. I will strongly encourage people to instead do it over PayPal or, if it works for them, with Monobank. If it works with your bank, directly to the 110th Mechanized Brigades or other donation campaigns that we do in the future, only because YouTube super chats take a chunk of whatever, from super chats and stuff. Like YouTube and Google both take their cut, and then I have to pay transfer fees of whatever is sent to get it directly to where it needs to go. Um, Maybe not with PayPal. I might be able to avoid that being an issue. But anyway, you get the point. But we'll have that available, and I'm just going to make sure that gets to our donations links as needed. But we might have that soon. So yeah, just stay tuned. Keep supporting Ukraine, and thank you for being here. All right, take care, everybody, and we'll do another stream, or I'll try to make sure I've got time to do some video editing so I can put some more videos up here soon that have been recorded. And I'll see you all again later. Slava Ukraini.